Why will my startup pitch fail? You're able to get investor meetings. That's great. However, none of the meetings ever lead to even a second meeting. You have no idea what you're doing wrong, but you know that something has to change or you'll never get funded. That's what today's video is all about. Based on my experience helping hundreds of startup CEOs with their pitches, I'll share with you the 10 reasons your investor pitch is failing and how you can instantly improve your pitch to fix these problems. I hope you like it. Hi, I'm Brett. On my channel, I help early stage startup CEOs like you raise money and grow your startup. So if this sounds like you, then hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get notified every time I release a new video. Let's get started. And let's start with reason number 1 on my list. Number 1, you don't explain what you do. Yesterday, the CEO was reviewing his pitch with me, and 5 slides into the pitch, I had no idea what his startup did. After reviewing the whole pitch, it was still unclear what his startup did. I gave the CEO my feedback that I had no idea what his company did, and he was surprised. I would estimate that at least 50% of the pitches I evaluate, it's not clear what the company does, or it's very murky what the company does. Don't let this happen to you. You should make it as clear as possible what you do even before you start your pitch. Here's how you do it. On your cover slide, put a 1-sentence statement saying exactly what your company does. For example, if you make the sturdiest baskets in the world, then say, "We make the sturdiest baskets in the world." You get the idea. Now let's move to number 2 on the list. Number 2, you don't explain the pain. The best way to start your pitch is by explaining the problem your target customers have and how you will solve that problem. However, almost every CEO I meet with gets this wrong because they superficially explain the problem and not the pain their customers are in. And then investors are left unimpressed. The reasons investors are unimpressed is they know that customers can live with a problem, but they desperately want their pain resolved. Your job is digging deep into the pain. Start by asking the question, how bad is it for my customers not to have my product or solution? The pain lies in the results. That's what you want to dig into. Then, you want to make sure your solution resolves the customer pain. If problem and solution slides are not connected in this manner, then your pitch will fall flat and it will be more difficult for investors to grasp the power of what you are doing. This leads directly to number 3 on my list. Number 3, you fail to build an emotional bridge. Maybe I should have put this as number 1 on the list. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Investors vote with their emotions first and logic second. And you have maybe 7 to 10 seconds to start building an emotional connection between yourself and your audience. In this case, investors. That's it. If investors aren't emotionally bought in about your company, they will not invest. For example, I was pitching Microsoft founder Paul Allen's Vulcan Ventures about investing in our company. I thought the meeting went well. Then, a few days later, one of the partners gave us the feedback that Paul couldn't get excited about the idea of investing in an analog semiconductor company. In other words, we had failed to make an emotional connection. Part of the reason we failed is I didn't know then what I know now. The clock is ticking. The second the investor enters the room or the Zoom meeting or the coffee shop. My point is you don't have time to wait. You have to get right to it and get them excited about what you're doing. Next, let's move to number 4 on the list. Number 4, you don't explain how it works. The how it works slide might be the most misunderstood slide in a pitch deck because it's a riddle. The riddle is, investors don't want to know how your product or solution works. Investors do want to know how your product or solution works. Are you confused? Well, you're not alone. What investors really want to know is what's the, in investor speak, secret sauce. In other words, what's the engine? The reason for the incredible improvement your product or solution brings to the market. A great How It Works slide explains the key innovation your startup developed in an easy to understand way. This leads directly to number 5 on my list. Number 5. You overwhelm the audience with information. Let's continue talking about how you can screw up your How It Works slide. One of the classic mistakes I see is an overly complex diagram of how your product or service works that no one can understand. That's essentially what I did in the very first pitch deck I created. And when you do that, the investor's eyes glaze over. Trust me on that one. You've lost them, and then you're not getting them back. I know you want to show how great your product or service is. I get it. However, my advice is to let investors guide you regarding how deep they want to go. You do this by making the explanations easy to follow. If your audience has the skill to go deeper, they will ask you more in-depth questions. Now, let's move to number 6 on the list. Number 6, you don't explain why you will win. Yet another classic mistake that I see way too often. You can't be shy about explaining early and often why you will win. It should be clear instantly that your new product or service is significantly better than the competition in a meaningful way. Repetition is good. Use it to your advantage. In different ways, you should be saying it on the problem slide, the solution slide, the how it works slide, the product roadmap slide, and the competitive analysis slide. Next, let's move to number 7 on the list. Number 7, you're a solo founder with no team plan. Imagine this. You've wowed investors with how you are going to disrupt a huge market. Then you get to the team slide. And as a solo founder, you say you'll start recruiting a team after the funding close. The investor takes a deep sigh and says, "Thanks. Come back when you've recruited your team." The reason investors will say this is that it's too risky to back a solo founder or a founding team that doesn't have enough ability to execute their plan. You need to understand that one of your jobs is reducing the risk for potential investors and, interestingly enough, for yourself too. So stop procrastinating and start recruiting your team. Even if you have people lined up for after your funding closes, that will help. Now, let's move to number 8 on the list. Number 8. You say you don't have any competition. My favorite slide in the pitch deck is the competitive analysis slide because so many good things can happen if you approach it in the right way. Sadly, one of the classic mistakes I see too many times is CEOs saying they don't have any competition. The reality is that every company has competition. You have competition even if you're creating a new market. The competition is the old way of doing things. For example, let's say it's the late 19th century and we're developing the first automobile. The competition would be the forms of transportation available today, such as horses and trains. You gain major points by explaining how the landscape is changing, not by hiding from the changes. Now, let's move to number 9 on the list. Number 9, your go-to-market strategy doesn't make sense. I think more CEOs screw up their go-to-market strategies than anything else. There are several mistakes I see. First, they overcomplicate their go-to-market strategy. Second, they use the laundry list approach with too many possible strategies. Third, they use the will advertise on Google or Facebook approach. I could keep going because the list of mistakes is long. The remedy here is keep your go-to-market strategy really simple. You're doing it wrong if it's not really easy to explain and understand. Now let's move to number 10 on my list, the last one. Number 10, your plan feels too conservative. I know it sounds really great to say something like, we only need 1% of the trillion-dollar market to build a huge company. However, investors hear something like this totally different. They hear that you're thinking too small because they want a much larger percentage of the market than just 1%. Just as importantly, investors know that if you shoot for 1% market share, you're likely to get nothing. The reason is you likely don't understand the market when you say you only need 1%. Instead, niche down and find a way to be the dominant player in your market. That's the right strategy, and it's what investors want to hear. Now, if this content is resonating with you, then please hit the like button right now. One final thought. Change your mindset about raising money. I know better than most people how difficult raising startup funding is, and I get how easy it is to think your pitch deck is a worthless, necessary evil. Instead, I want to suggest that you think about your pitch deck and pitch as a way to make your startup better. You can do that by realizing that your pitch deck is your business plan. That means the deck is there for you to make your company better. Now, if you want help fixing your pitch, then just watch this free 20-minute training or scan this QR code to join my group for startup CEOs, Zero to Pitch Gold. I'm Brett at brettjfox.com. Thanks for watching today. Take care.